Welcome to 1337, the future of podcast of books. I'm Max, your host, diving into, epic tales and hidden gems.
And I'm Sophia, and I'm all about the art of storytelling. You know those pages that really move us? Novels, classics, the craft behind the words.
Right. It's about taking control, being more creative, more productive.
And sharing your unique gifts with the world.
Exactly. Run after your obsessions, folks, and take good notes. We're the place where we sift through, some really fascinating sources, trying to pull out those golden nuggets of knowledge that help you become truly well-informed.
That's the goal.
And today, we're plunging into a question that honestly might just reshape how you view history, art, maybe even your own sense of beauty.
Mm-hmm.
What did beauty really mean to the ancient Greeks? Was it just about, pretty faces and grand temples?
Or something deeper?
Exactly. Or was it something far more profound, something intricately woven into their very understanding of the divine?
It's a really captivating question, actually, because our modern concept of beauty, it often feels quite detached, doesn't it?
Yeah, purely visual maybe,
or
artistic.
Something existing for its own sake. But as we'll uncover in this deep dive, that idea of aesthetic autonomy, beauty for beauty's sake, it was remarkably alien to ancient Greek thought.
Really? Alien how?
Well, their understanding of beauty was fundamentally linked to practical concerns, deep-seated social values, and perhaps most crucially, their religious beliefs. It wasn't separate.
Absolutely. And our mission today is to unpack this whole idea using some fascinating insights from Hugo Shakeshaft's book, Beauty and the Gods. It's quite compelling.
It really is.
We're going to challenge some of our modern assumptions, explore just how deeply this concept of beauty infiltrated almost every aspect of ancient Greek life.
Pretty much everything.
Yeah, we're talking their gods, their legendary heroes, their music, the sacred natural landscapes they revered, their magnificent architecture, and even the simple, heartfelt offerings they made.
So think of this deep dive as maybe your shortcut to understanding a complex but incredibly rewarding subject.
Hopefully you'll get those aha moments.
Exactly. Gaining unexpected perspectives that will help you see the classical world and perhaps even your own world in a completely new light.
This isn't just an audio textbook, folks.
No, definitely not. It's a journey into the very heart of ancient Greek values, guided by some surprising facts and intriguing historical debates that still resonate today. Unpacking beauty, ancient Greek lexicon, and its nuances.
Okay, so let's start right at the beginning with the language itself. When we talk about beauty in English, we often default to something purely visual, right? Mm-hmm. Something admired from a distance, maybe a work of art.
That's the usual sense, yeah.
But our source, Shakeshaft, makes it really clear that ancient Greek ideas were profoundly different. So when we dive into their actual words, their lexicon, what's the first kind of revelation we hit?
Well, I think a key revelation is that this modern concept of beauty for beauty's sake, detached from function or everyday interests, it was entirely foreign to them.
Completely foreign.
Pretty much. For the ancient Greeks, beauty was intricately interwoven with practical considerations, societal norms, and crucially, their religious frameworks. It wasn't just about how something looked. It was about what it did, what it meant, and how it contributed to the overall order of things.
So it was a kind of functional beauty, always serving a purpose, even when it was divine.
Precisely. And you see this beautifully illustrated when we look at their core terms for beauty. They were far more expansive than our single word, pretty.
Right.
Take, for instance, kalos. That's probably the most prolific adjective. It's applied to everything. People, animals, objects, places, sounds, even abstract ideas.
Everything. Wow.
Yeah. And in many contexts, beautiful is a good translation. It denotes an attractive aspect of appearance, often associated with radiance, maybe precious metals.
I've often heard kalos translated simply as beautiful, like you say, but the source really emphasizes its wide range. How does it go beyond just physical attractiveness?
Well, you might encounter a phrase like, it is kalos to do this.
Okay.
Now, that wouldn't mean it is beautiful to do this in our modern visual sense. It would mean it is good or it is appropriate to do this.
Ah, right. Good or appropriate.
And this reveals a really profound nuance. The semantic range of kalos seems to imply that if something looks good, then it often is good. Appearance and moral quality were often deeply linked in their minds.
That's a powerful connection, implying an ethical dimension to beauty itself. But surely the Greeks distinguished between physical beauty and moral virtue. they weren't always equating a pretty face with a good character, were they?
That's an excellent point, and our source confirms they absolutely could see the distinction. It wasn't a blind spot.
Okay.
The Iliad gives us Paris, for example, the one who abducted Helen.
Right.
He's described as having a beautiful appearance, undeniably so, yet he's also portrayed as, well, a coward. He shirks from fighting, he profanes sacred laws.
So his beauty is separate from his character flaws.
Exactly. His physical beauty is there, but his character is deeply flawed, so they weren't naive about it. And Sappho, the great poet, she reflects on this ambiguity too. She wrote something like, "For one man is beautiful kalos insofar as appearances are concerned, but the man who is good agathos will immediately be beautiful kalos too."
That's subtle.
It shows a recognition of the difference, right?
Yeah.
While also highlighting how kalos increasingly gained these moral connotations through the Archaic period. The link became stronger over time.
That's fascinating. So much depth just in that one word. What about Caris? This term also seems to have multiple layers beyond just, simple grace.
Oh, Charis is another really rich example. It translates to things like grace, pleasure, beauty, favor, even delight.
Quite range.
But its key characteristic, the thing that really defines it, is its inherent connection to reciprocity, especially in divine human relations.
Reciprocity, like a give and take.
Exactly. A beautiful, pleasing offering, one filled with Caris, was understood to elicit Caris divine favor in return. It's about this reciprocal exchange of goodwill and delight. It makes the very act of giving and receiving beautiful in itself.
Oh, I see.
It could also describe, say, Sappho's poems that might charm us with their Caris. It's that pleasing quality.
So it's not just static gracefulness, it's a dynamic, interactive concept. And then there's cosmos. This one is amazing. It spans everything from jewelry to the entire universe. How do those meanings possibly connect?
Cosmos is fascinating. It breaks down into order, ornament, and cosmos as the ordered universe.
Ornament universe.
Okay. The brilliance of the word lies in how these meanings intertwine. The source explains that when things appear well-ordered, they inherently have an ornamental, a beautifying effect.
So order itself is beautiful.
In a sense, yes. It's why cosmos can refer to an adornment. Think of Hera in the Iliad. When she beautifies herself, getting ready to seduce Zeus, she does so by carefully setting each ornament, cosmos, in place.
Right.
The act of ordering her adornments is what makes her beautiful. It's the structure, the arrangement.
And Gorgias, the sophist, he famously played on this idea, didn't he? That sounds familiar.
Yes, exactly. Gorgias puns on that double meaning in his famous encomium to Helen. He says something like, "For a city, its cosmos, meaning its order or ornament, is good citizenry. For the body, its cosmos is beauty kalos. For the soul, it is wisdom. For deeds, it is excellence. For speech, it is truth."
Wow.
It highlights just how widespread that concept of ornamentation and order was. It contributed to this overarching sense of beauty across all sorts of cultural domains: body, city, soul, speech.
Incredible. Moving on, what about Agalma? This one sounds almost substantial, like a physical thing.
Agalma is typically defined as an object of delight, or glory, or honor. Its beauty isn't just visual. It's really about the pleasure and pride it brings to both gods and humans.
Pleasure and pride.
Yeah. And its etymological link to the verb agalmai, which means to delight in or take pride in, perfectly encapsulates this. And agalma literally causes delight. It shows its value goes beyond mere aesthetics.
So a beautiful statue wasn't just something to be admired passively. It literally delighted the god it was dedicated to.
That's the idea, exactly. And beyond these main terms, the Greeks had others too, of course.
Okay.
Well, there's parakalais, meaning very beautiful or exquisite, and hemeroes and erikanos, both meaning something like lovely or desirable, often with a sort of erotic or alluring connotation.
So a whole toolkit of words.
Right. This entire lexical array, always attentive to the specific context, is just vital for understanding their really comprehensive view of beauty.
Yeah.
It wasn't monolithic.
One fascinating puzzle the source brings up, though, are the historical debates. Even centuries after the Archaic period we're focusing on, like with Plutarch's tour party in the 2nd century CE.
Yep.
It shows there wasn't just one single dogma about beauty in the gods, even then.
No, definitely not.
So what were they grappling with? What were the sticking points?
Well, one key question that emerges from Plutarch's dialogue is this. If the Pythia's oracular verses, the prophecies from Delphi, if they sometimes seemed, well, inferior in beauty compared to Homer's poetry.
Which is pretty high praise for Homer.
Right. How could those verses possibly be divine if they didn't sound as good?
Tricky.
So Serapion, one member of the group, he argues that the problem lies with human judgment. Our judgment, he says, is skewed by bad habits.
It's our fault.
Yeah. He insists the Pythias verses are the best and most beautiful, but we lack the proper aesthetic standards. We're too charmed by superficial beauty that Caris again found elsewhere, like in Sappho's poetry. It's our flawed human perception distorting what is truly divinely beautiful.
So it's our fault, not Apollo's, that we don't appreciate divine poetry. That's one way to look at it.
Precisely. But Theon, another member, he offers an alternative, a different explanation.
Okay.
He suggests Apollo only inspires the prophetess's mind with visions. The prophetess herself is responsible for the actual words, the diction, the quality of the verses.
Separating inspiration from execution.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This neatly preserves Apollo's crown of beauty, placing any perceived aesthetic shortcomings squarely on human shoulders.
Clever, right? Very clever. It keeps the god perfect.
Yeah.
And the debates weren't just about poetry, were they? The source mentions arguments about the very nature of votive objects, too, like statues.
That's right. Diognetus recounts these kind of miraculous stories about votives in sanctuaries, a general's statue whose eye supposedly popped out just before his death.
Whoa.
Or a Spartan leader's statue that suddenly sprouted wild shrubs. Philinus argues these events show that votives are actually filled with divine spirit.
So the objects themselves are alive, in a way.
That's the implication. A powerful idea of divine immanence within objects. But then Boethus just dismisses them as mere coincidences. Random chance.
So a real debate about how literal the divine presence was.
Exactly. It shows this ongoing debate about how directly, how physically the divine manifested in the world through these objects.
It's incredible how these discussions from centuries ago, they kind of mirror some of our own philosophical questions about art, belief, perception today. What can we, the listener, learn about our own judgments of beauty by understanding these ancient debates?
Well, what really stands out, I think, is how deeply ingrained our cultural and philosophical perspectives are in what we perceive as beautiful, or even what we value.
Mm-hmm.
These ancient debates, they challenge us to consider how our own cultural biases might influence our perceptions. What do we consider beautiful or perfect in art or nature or even human expression? Are we judging based on, say, external charm that superficial Caris Serapion warned about?
Or something deeper?
Or are we seeking a deeper, perhaps more profound form of beauty, one that resonates with a different kind of order or truth? It pushes us, I think, to think beyond just surface-level aesthetics and consider the underlying values and intentions. What makes something truly beautiful to us? 2, epic grandeur. Beauty in heroes, gods, and their crafted worlds.
Okay, so taking this richer understanding of words like kalos and Caris and cosmos, how does this all play out in the portrayal of the gods themselves? Particularly in epic poetry like Homer and Hesiod. Our source delves deep here, showing that divine beauty wasn't just, decorative window dressing.
No, not at all.
It defined their very essence. It wasn't just what they looked like, but fundamentally who they were.
Indeed, and I think one of the clearest takeaways from the epics is that divine beauty is the external manifestation of permanent youthful vitality.
Permanent youthful vitality.
Okay. Unlike humans, who age and die, gods are immortal and ageless. It's their defining trait. And their beauty, therefore, reflects this fundamental difference. It's a constant, radiant state of being, not something that fades.
That's a crucial distinction.
Mm-hmm.
Can you give us some key divine examples? How is this immortality and vitality manifested in their beauty?
Certainly. Let's take Aphrodite. She's often described as reverend, golden-crowned, beautiful.
The classic image.
Right. And when the hoary the seasons adorn her, they don't just dress her. The text says they deck her out in finery, cosmos. Immortal clothes, a well-wrought golden diadem, flowery earrings, golden necklaces.
So the cosmos, again, order and ornament.
Exactly. Her adornment isn't merely for show. It characterizes her seductive power and defines her role as the goddess of love. And the immortals, when they see her, they marvel at her appearance. It signifies the sheer awe her beauty inspires.
And what about Artemis? How was her beauty portrayed differently to fit her specific role?
Artemis is depicted with a very distinct, chaste, nubile beauty. She's often shown with her golden distaff. Her beauty is perfectly suited to her role. She's frequently associated with female initiation rituals, wild animals, the hunt.
So a wilder, purer beauty.
Yes, a pristine, untamed beauty reflecting her own wild and untamed nature. It's not the same as Aphrodite's allure.
Now, Athena seems to really disrupt the typical gendered norms of beauty we might expect. How is her appearance described? She's not like Aphrodite or Artemis at all.
No, she's quite different. Athena is described as a reverend maiden, yes, but her beauty disrupts the gendered norm. She's born from Zeus's head, fully formed in battle armor of bright shining gold.
Born in armor.
Right. And her radiant armor aestheticizes her in a manner typically reserved for male warriors, like Achilles and his famous shield. This inspires awe, Sebas, in the other gods. Her beauty is formidable, powerful, not merely alluring. It's suited to her exceptional martial power.
And what about the goddesses tied more closely to the natural world, like Demeter and Persephone?
Demeter is often called beautifully garlanded or bearer of resplendent fruit, directly linking her beauty to the earth's bounty to fertility.
Makes sense.
And Persephone, her daughter, is described as very beautiful, often depicted like a budding flower. This highlights her deep connection to the natural world, and poignantly, it ties into her abduction story, which happens while she's gathering flowers.
Ah, the flower metaphor.
Yes, the metaphor of a blossoming flower encapsulates her youthful fertility, her connection to the cycle of life and death, and her vulnerability. And, it's clear from Hesiod's Theogony that the cosmos itself had to be put in order before this kind of, proper divine beauty could fully flourish. Before Zeus establishes cosmic order, you find these monstrous hybrid children.
Like who?
Well, the children of Phorkys and Keto. You have the gray, described paradoxically as beautiful-cheeked old women, gray-haired from birth. A clear violation of that link between youth and beauty we mentioned.
Old but beautiful-cheeked.
Yeah.
Strange.
Exactly. Or Echidna, who is half a beautiful-cheeked nymph, half a monstrous snake. These paradoxical appearances, they embody the fact that cosmic order hasn't quite been locked down yet. Beauty is still mixed with the monstrous.
And after Zeus takes charge, we see a distinct shift, don't we, in his offspring?
Precisely. Post-Zeus, his children confirm this trend. They're aesthetically untouched by that kind of monstrous hybridity. His marriage to Eurynome, who has a lovely appearance, produces the three beautiful-cheeked chariots: splendor, joy, and good cheer.
The graces.
Right. And unlike those earlier monstrosities, the chariots are free of any bizarre add-ons. They personify Charis itself, pleasure, beauty, favor. And they actively bestow beauty. They bathe and dress Aphrodite, they adorn Pandora, they give kalos to mortal women. It underscores that beauty, once properly ordered, is seen as a beneficent positive force.
This is where the stories get really compelling, I think. How did this divine standard of beauty, this ordered, vital beauty, play out in the depiction of mortals? Especially the heroes and heroines. They seem to embody these divine qualities, but often with a tragic twist.
Yes, and the connection back to you, the listener, is clear here. These divine comparisons set an ideal, showing how mortals could embody divine qualities. But as you say, often with a tragic irony that just underscored their transient human condition, their mortality.
Like Achilles.
Take Achilles, exactly. He is explicitly described as the most beautiful, Callistos, of the Greek heroes at Troy. His beauty isn't just physical attractiveness, though. It's conveyed through his godlike radiance and, crucially, his Hephaestus-made armor.
The divine craftsmanship again.
Yes. It shines like Hyperion the beaming sun, or like a star. This incandescent, almost terrifying beauty perfectly matches his godlike anger, his maeness.
But there's a downside.
Here's the tragic irony. By killing Hector, which is this decisive expression of his godlike power and beauty, Achilles seals his own mortal fate. His extraordinary beauty becomes a harbinger of his own doom. It marks him for death.
So his very perfection leads to his downfall. Chilling. What about Agamemnon? How is his kingly beauty portrayed? He wasn't necessarily the greatest fighter, but he was the leader.
Agamemnon is presented in a fascinating way as a unique visual composite of three divinities.
Three gods in one.
Kind of. His head is like Zeus's, his waist like Ares, the god of war, and his chest like Poseidon's, god of the sea. This isn't just flattery, it signifies his supreme authority, his regal majesty, and his warlike prowess, all combined.
And people notice this.
Oh, yes. Priam, the Trojan king, upon seeing him, marvels, "Never have I seen with my eyes a man so handsome Calon, nor so majestic Geron, for he has the look of the king." Looking like a god, let alone three eminent deities, was basically tantamount to looking beautiful and powerful.
And then there's Helen, of course. Renowned for her beauty, but often presented with this dangerous allure. How is her beauty characterized in the epics?
Helen's irresistible beauty is emphasized by a really potent double divine analogy. She has the appearance of golden Aphrodite and the sparkle of the chariots.
Aphrodite and the Graces, that's a powerful combination.
It denotes a particularly seductive and dangerous kind of beauty, the kind that famously leads to the Trojan War. But what's fascinating, and shows the flexibility of these concepts, is how her beauty's portrayal changes.
How so?
In the Odyssey, years later, when she's back at home in Sparta with Menelaus, she appears like Artemis.
Like Artemis, the chaste goddess.
Exactly, the divine embodiment of chaste, noble beauty. It signifies a transformation, a reintegration into proper domestic life after the chaos of Troy. It shows that beauty isn't fixed. It can evolve with context and reflect character change.
That's a profound shift in how she's presented. And then we have the contrasting fates of Ganymede and Tithonus. Their stories seem incredibly illustrative of that core difference between divine and human beauty.
They are indeed. It's a perfect comparison. Ganymede, the Trojan prince, is abducted by Zeus on account of his beauty.
Just because he was beautiful.
Just because he was beautiful, and as a result, he is granted immortality and agelessness. He becomes Zeus's cupbearer on Olympus. He achieves that permanent youthful vitality we talked about earlier.
He gets the full divine package.
He does. Tithonus, however, is his tragic counterpart. He was also loved by a deity, Eos, the goddess of dawn, and she too asks Zeus to grant him immortality. But critically, she forgets to ask for eternal youth. So Tithonus is granted immortality, but he keeps aging. This leads to a grim fate of repulsive old age, where Dawn eventually distances herself, locking him away as he shrivels into, well, basically just a voice.
It was bleak.
It powerfully illustrates the inherent difference between divine permanence and human transience. Even when granted a semblance of immortality, human beauty fades if youth isn't also granted. Divine beauty simply does not.
This brings us to a fantastic paradox then. Hephaestus, the god of craft, often portrayed as lame, maybe even ugly by divine standards, yet he creates objects of unbelievable beauty. So what does this tell us about the ancient Greek view of art and craft? It seems contradictory.
It does seem contradictory on the surface. But if we consider the broader social context, Hephaestus kind of embodies a conflicted attitude within Greek society itself.
Conflicted how?
Well, while the products of techno-craftsmanship were highly prized, for military purposes, displaying status, forging social ties, the craftsmen themselves could sometimes be viewed with a degree of fear and distrust.
Really? Why?
Perhaps because of their power to transform materials, maybe their association with fire and metal. And Hephaestus's denigration on Olympus, the jokes made at his expense despite the sheer brilliance of his creations, might symbolically reflect this marginal social position of actual craftsmen.
So his treatment reflects societal views of artisans.
Possibly. Plutarch even notes something relevant here. He says, "No talented young man ever wanted to be Phidias, the famous sculptor. For it does not necessarily follow that if we delight in an attractive artwork, its creator is worthy of our esteem." There was a separation.
That's a subtle but really important social commentary baked into the mythology. What were some of Hephaestus's most famous creations, the ones that embody this paradox of beauty emerging from a supposedly ugly god?
Oh, his creations are consistently described in terms of their astounding beauty and, crucially, their lifelikeness.
Lifelikeness. We keep coming back to that.
Yes. Consider Achilles' shield. It's described as a thama eidestai, a wonder to behold, so meticulously crafted that its images appear as if alive, moving, defying their static nature on the bronze.
Like magical realism in metalwork?
Kind of. Then there's Pandora's headband, also a wonder to behold, emanating Caris, that pleasing grace, and adorned with wonderful beasts like living beings with voices.
Living beings with voices. On a headband.
That's the description. Even his tripods, these three-legged tables or cauldrons, are said to move of their own accord, another wonder to behold.
The idea of lifelikeness seems to be just a crowning ideal for them. It's not just about static beauty, is it? It's about instilling a sense of animation, of life.
Absolutely. The ability to endow inanimate matter with the qualities of living beings, movement, sight, even speech, was considered a crowning ideal of representation in their art. And this lifelikeness was consistently linked with beauty and that sense of wonder.
So for the ancient Greeks?
For them, an object that appeared almost alive despite being clearly crafted by hands, that was considered the pinnacle of aesthetic achievement. This is really key to understanding their admiration for Hephaestus's paradoxical genius. He could make metal seem to live. 3, nature's allure, sacred landscapes as expressions of divine beauty.
Okay, Shifting gears a bit. When we modern travelers think of the beauty of Greece, we often picture those vast, sweeping landscapes, right? The dramatic coastlines, the mountains, the panoramic views from ancient sites.
The classic postcard shots.
Exactly. But our deep dive here reveals that for the ancient Greeks themselves, especially when it came to their sacred sites, the focus was much more specific. It wasn't really about the grand vista, was it?
No, and this brings up a crucial point. What truly mattered aesthetically for ancient Greek worshippers in the natural world? The source clarifies that it wasn't the grand tourist panorama that we appreciate today.
So not the big picture.
Not primarily. It was the specific, often intimate features within sanctuaries that held the most aesthetic and religious significance for them. While modern visitors might stand on a temple platform and admire the sweeping view from it.
Which is often spectacular.
Oh, absolutely. But the ancient Greeks seem to have been drawn more to specific natural elements at the site itself, things they understood as conduits or expressions of divine presence. The natural elements most often described as beautiful in their texts are precisely those found at sacred sites.
Like what specifically?
Springs, rivers, trees, groves, gardens, flowers, meadows. These specific features.
So it was more about immersion in these particular sacred micro-environments rather than a detached, expansive appreciation of a landscape.
Exactly. Let's take springs and rivers first. They are frequently described with epithets like beautiful streams, calarus, beautiful flowing, or having lovely bright water.
Beautiful flowing, I like that.
Right. The Castellius spring at Delphi, for example, is called Acrina Calarus, a beautiful flowing fountain, and it was absolutely central not just to Delphi's mythical history, but also to its everyday ritual life. People used it for purification before entering the sacred precinct, the temenos.
And the connection to nymphs must have made these water sources feel even more alive, more resonant, right?
Indeed. Nymphs perfectly embody this connection. Their very names often blur the line between anthropomorphic beauty and the phenomenal beauty of the water sources themselves. Think of names like Calarho, which literally means beautiful flowing.
Ah, the name is the description.
Exactly. And water, of course, was indispensable ritually for purification, for libations, for healing baths. Its inherent beauty, the clarity, the coolness, the sound, it heightened the sense of transition into sacred space.
Any archaeological evidence for this connection?
Yes. Things like lustral basins, perihanturia, which were used for ritual washing, are sometimes decorated with figures recalling nymphs. It symbolizes that deep connection between human ritual, divine presence, and natural beauty.
What about trees and groves? What was their significance beyond simply providing, welcome shade in the Greek sun?
Well, their practical value, like providing cool shade, was definitely appreciated and deeply interwoven with aesthetic pleasure. It offered a pleasing haptic quality, like cool springs or soft meadows, a sensory delight.
But more than just comfort.
Oh, yes. They also held profound ritual significance. There's the story of Heracles transplanting olive trees from the north to Olympia. And the wreaths used to crown Olympic victors were made from the leaves of a sacred olive tree there.
So the trees themselves became sacred.
They became landscapes of memory. They preserved the divine past, legends of heroes like Heracles, making that past present and tangible in the ritual act of crowning. It invested the victory crown with even greater significance. And specific sacred trees, like the most beautiful oak associated with Zeus at Troy, often presaged divine intervention or protection. Their exceptional beauty signaled their sacred importance.
And gardens and meadows.
Yeah.
The source mentions they often had associations with fertility, even eroticism.
Yes. Gardens and meadows in Greek literature and thought often carried rich erotic connotations. They symbolized fertility, budding sexuality, places of encounter.
Can you give an example?
Well, Poseidon is said to have slept with Medusa in a soft meadow with spring flowers. And the poet Ibycus uses the metaphor of an uncut garden of maidens to represent virginity and blooming youth. These spaces were seen as inherently sensually delightful, often appearing in the language of love and desire.
How did these kinds of natural places connect directly to cult practices? Were gardens part of rituals?
They had direct cultic connections, yes. The Adonia festival, for instance, which mourned the death of Adonis, Aphrodite's beautiful young lover, involved creating gardens of Adonis.
What are those?
They were basically fast-growing plants like lettuce or fennel, grown in potsherds, which would sprout quickly and then wither just as fast in the summer heat. This enacted a widespread metaphor found in Greek poetry, that beautiful youths are like blossoming plants destined to fade. It directly linked to Aphrodite and Adonis.
A living metaphor in the ritual.
Exactly. And flowers more generally, because of their obvious beauty and fragrance, were widely used in cults, for garlands worn by worshippers, for offerings laid on altars. They were thought to make the worshippers themselves more pleasing to the gods. Sappho even explicitly tells a woman named Dica to, quote, "Put lovely garlands around your locks, for the blessed chariots look rather on what is adorned with flowers and turn away from those who lack garlands."
So wearing flowers was religiously important, not just decorative.
It was a way to attract divine favor, predicated on the flower's beauty. So, stepping back for a moment, these natural topographies, the springs, the groves, the meadows within sanctuaries, they weren't just scenery for the ancient Greeks. They were, as the source calls them, landscapes of memory.
Living witnesses.
Living witnesses to past divine activity. Their beauty signified the gods' continued presence in that place right then and there. As the Roman writer Cicero later believed, connecting with these kinds of environments could bring the very forms of deities before the eyes of worshippers. The beauty of the place invoked the god.
So for the ancient Greek worshipper, a beautiful spring wasn't just a pretty water source. It was a tangible link to a nymph or maybe a god like Apollo at Delphi. It made the divine feel much closer, much more imminent. That's so different from our often modern experience of nature, where we might see solitude or vastness for its own sake.
Right. For them, it seems sacred nature was always a populated space, a place where the appearance of the natural world, the presence of the gods, and even the adorned appearance of mortal worshippers could potentially merge in a single, beautiful, meaningful image. 4. Monumental beauty. Sacred architecture as divine ornament.
Okay, here's where our modern assumptions really get tested, I think. We look at Greek temples, those majestic ruins, maybe the Parthenon, and we immediately think monumental.
It's the default word, isn't it?
It implies sheer scale, permanence, impressiveness. But our source argues pretty strongly that this concept of monumentality is actually alien to the ancient Greeks themselves. So what were they really thinking when they built these incredible structures? What was their actual intention, if not monumentality?
That's right. It's a really interesting point. While modern scholarship, quite reasonably, uses monumentality to describe the increasing size and durability of temples, especially in the archaic period.
Because they did get bigger and more durable.
They absolutely did, but the Greeks themselves didn't have a single word for it or even clear evidence that they were consciously pursuing monumentality as an abstract goal in itself. They weren't ticking a monumental box.
So what words did they use? What were their priorities?
Instead, they focused on how temples were kalos, beautiful, but also good, appropriate for the god, how they were erignotos, easily recognized or distinguished from other buildings, and how they were theodos, marvelous to behold, inspiring awe.
Kalos, erignotos, theodos, okay.
These terms reveal their true priorities: the quality of the work, its distinctiveness as a sacred building, and its power to inspire wonder and awe in the beholder. The source really emphasizes that divorcing this aesthetic appreciation from the wider historical, political, and religious concerns is a modern Western habit. It was all intertwined for the archaic and classical Greeks.
So erignotos, easily recognized. I mean, it really had to stand out visually from ordinary building.
Exactly. It signified its unique importance, its sacred function. And this leads us directly to the concept of the cosmos of architecture. Order and ornament.
Cosmos again, in buildings this time.
Yes. The philosophical notion, maybe expressed earliest by Thales, that the cosmos itself, the universe, is calistin, most beautiful because everything is a part of this in order, applies directly to architecture in their view.
So a temple reflects the universe's beauty.
In a way, yes. This principle of taxis, orderly arrangement, and symmetria, commensurability, good proportions, was intrinsic to beauty in both the universe and its earthly manifestations, like a temple. The ordered appearance itself has an ornamental value and effect.
So a well-ordered structure, like a temple, wasn't just functional, like holding up the roof. It was inherently beautiful because of its order. It reflected a divine principle.
Precisely. The inherent order of the design created an ornamental, beautifying effect. It was cosmos in both senses, orderly arrangement and adornment. A temple, through its careful arrangement of parts, its symmetry, its proportions, was like a miniature cosmos, and that made it pleasing to the gods, by reflecting the divine order they represented.
Let's dive into an early example to see this in action. What made the Isthmian Temple of Poseidon, built around 690 BCE, beautiful or fine in their terms? What stood out?
Well, one key innovation mentioned is its tile roof.
A tile roof, that sounds pretty basic.
To us, maybe. But back then, it was a significant upgrade from thatch. Beyond offering better strength and durability, it was a crucial visual marker of sacred architecture. It made the Temple Erignotos easily recognized and set it apart from ordinary buildings.
Ah, so the material itself signaled importance.
Exactly. This honored Poseidon by making his home outstanding, enhancing his prestige and the sanctuary status. Also, the use of imperishable materials like terracotta tiles and stone walls was seen as fitting for an immortal inhabitant, aligning with Homeric descriptions of the gods' own imperishable homes.
Material choice mattered theologically.
Yes. And one more subtle but significant detail. The source mentions white stucco applied to the cella walls. This provided a white sheen, which was a highly prized aesthetic quality in their culture. Think of Hera's veil being described as white like the sun. This whiteness contributed to its function as a gift appropriate to the god's divine status.
So it wasn't just about size, not yet anyway, but also about innovative materials, visual distinctiveness, color, and theological appropriateness. Okay, next. The Temple of Apollo at Syracuse, around 590-580 BCE. This one featured massive monolithic columns, was bigger, automatically considered more beautiful by then.
It seems grandeur was becoming a key component, yes, especially as a signifier of the god's power and the patron's prestige. The inscription found on this temple explicitly describes these groundbreaking, massive monolithic columns. They were the first and largest of their kind in Western Greece at the time, as kala verga.
Kala verga, meaning
Fine works or beautiful works. The inscription directly links the aesthetic grandeur of these huge columns not only to the socio-political prestige for the builders, but also explicitly to its theological purpose. It was intended as a pleasing gift for Apollo. The sheer scale itself was part of the beauty, part of the offering, bolstering the city's claims to authority.
and the Alcmaeonids Temple of Apollo at Delphi around 510 BCE. This was a politically charged commission, wasn't it? How did beauty play a role in their strategic efforts to get back into Athens?
Oh, very strategically. The Alcmaeonids were an exiled Athenian family, and they shrewdly used the beautification of Apollo's temple at Delphi as a political device. They basically went above and beyond the contract, using fine Parian marble for the facade instead of cheaper limestone.
To impress Apollo. Or the priests.
Both, probably. The goal was to persuade the Pythia, Apollo's priestess, to repeatedly advise the Spartans to help overthrow the Athenian tyrants and allow the Alcmaeonids back. And it worked. Pindar, the poet, later celebrates their work on the temple as marvelous to behold, Theodos, explicitly connecting the temple's widely admired aesthetic quality to the family's renown across all Greek cities.
Wow.
The admiration for the beautiful building directly translated into kudos, political capital, and legitimacy for its builders. It shows how the way the building was seen, judged, and experienced was crucial in calibrating prestige and achieving political goals. Beauty paid off.
That's a powerful demonstration of how beauty could be leveraged politically. And what about Temple C at Selinus in Sicily, around 540-510 BCE? This temple was enormous, apparently double the size of its predecessors. Did bigger automatically mean more beautiful then? Was scale the main thing?
In this context, it seems scale was definitely a primary component of its perceived beauty and significance. Consider the Homeric hymn to Apollo, which was likely composed around the same time this temple was being built.
What does the hymn say?
In it, Apollo himself declares his intention to build his most beautiful temple, Parakaleanon. And the sole physical trait mentioned to describe it is its bigness. It will have foundations in broad and very long dimensions.
So bigness equals beauty in Apollo's own words.
It seems so, in that context. For the people of Selinus, making their temple exceptionally large signified the god's immense power, and it made their city's sanctuary a crowning architectural centerpiece. It functioned as a model of order, cosmos, for the entire urban system, ratifying the city's civic order and ambition through its sheer scale.
Okay, but it wasn't just size and order, right? They also used color and what sounds like truly captivating sculptures. We're so used to seeing plain white marble in museums, but that's really not how they originally looked at all.
Absolutely not. That's a neoclassical misconception. Poikilos, meaning varied, intricate, and colorful, was a key aesthetic value for them. Terracotta roof tiles, architectural elements, sculptures, they were painted in bright, often variegated colors. Red, blue, black.
It's very vibrant.
Very vibrant. And temple decoration, especially the sculptural metotopes, those rectangular panels often depicting myths, aimed for that lifelikeness we keep mentioning. They were meant to be thauma adestai, wonder to behold. It was about more than just static form. It was about animation, telling a story vividly.
Can you give us some specific examples of this lifelikeness in their architectural sculpture?
Think again of Hephaestus's creations, which amaze with their beauty, movement, and sensory animation. Achilles' shield, remember, had images that appeared as if alive, seeming to move and defy their material limits.
Right, the living pictures.
And Pandora's headband, also his creation, was a wonder to behold, with wonderful beasts like living beings with voices. This ability to endow inanimate matter with qualities of living beings, movement, sight, speech, was the crowning ideal of representation, consistently linked with beauty and wonder. Now apply that to temples. On Temple C at Selinus, the Mintopes depict figures like Perseus beheading Medusa, Heracles capturing mischievous forest creatures, maybe Orestes killing his mother. They're sculpted in incredibly deep relief, sometimes almost fully in the round, seemingly unattached to the background.
So they really popped out.
Yes, conveying intense action and motion. There's often a strong emphasis on their eyes, which would have been painted, perhaps shining like fire or glaring terribly, endowing the figures with a striking vitality and almost inviting viewers into the dramatic scene.
Like the Gorgon Medusa?
The Gorgon on Temple C is a perfect example. She is depicted frontally, running, with a fearsome, grimacing face. It mirrors Hesiod's description of fear, Phobos. And interestingly, there was a local cult of Phobos, fear, at Selinus. So this terrifying image wasn't just generic monster slaying, it directly reflected local religious sensibilities.
That's a fantastic insight, that beauty, or perhaps better, wonder, could encompass the fearsome, the terrifying, as well as the conventionally pleasing. It wasn't all just serene gods.
Exactly. It had to be appropriate to the context, to the god, to the myth, even if that meant being awe-inspiringly scary. And there's a touch of humor in the source material related to this too, isn't there? With the satyrs in Aeschylus's play Ismiaste.
Ah, yes, they try to dedicate pictures of themselves to Poseidon's temple.
That's right. They're fixing painted wooden images of themselves to the temple, and they proudly call them beautifully painted cosmos ornaments. It highlights the high value placed on beauty for pleasing the god, even if their own attempt is comically misplaced and self-serving.
Even naughty satyrs know beauty pleases the gods.
Exactly. The very fact that they refer to their own beautiful form and their images as beautifully painted cosmos just underlines how important beauty was thought to be in adorning a god's temple and winning favor. The intent to beautify for the deity was paramount, even if the execution was questionable. The offerings of delight, beauty in votives, and reciprocity.
So we've talked about the gods, the heroes, and nature of the massive temples, but beyond those grand structures, what about the smaller, more personal offerings, the things individual people gave to the gods? How did beauty factor into those dedications? It seems like it wasn't just about the act of giving something anything.
No, the quality mattered, and this raises a key question. Why dedicate something beautiful specifically? Votives, these offerings, were essentially gifts to the gods. They were part of that reciprocal exchange of Caris, or favor, that we discussed earlier.
The give and take again.
Right. The underlying expectation was that a beautiful gift, something well-crafted and aesthetically pleasing, would delight the deity. It would capture their attention, please them, and hopefully inspire their charis, their favor, their goodwill in return. It wasn't just a neutral transaction. It was an appeal to the god's own aesthetic pleasure, designed to create a positive, pleasing bond. The source puts it nicely. Beauty was valued precisely because of its perceived power to make things happen and satisfy the interests and purposes for which votives were made. Beauty had agency.
Let's dive into the details of a specific example the source explores. The Monticlos statuette. It's a bronze figure from way back, around 700-675 BCE, dedicated to Apollo. Our source goes into immense detail about its features. What makes it such a good case study?
It's a fantastic example because it embodies so many of these complex facets of ancient beauty, all in one small object. It's described as daedaleos, cunningly wrought, and poikilos, intricately adorned. It really intertwines expert craftsmanship, a sense of formal order, and that paradoxical lifelikeness.
Okay, break that down. What about the craftsmanship? Techni, how is that evident?
Well, the statuette openly flaunts its status as a work of expert craft. You see it in the meticulous details. Tiny dimples at the corners of the mouth, fine linear markings indicating eyebrows, and even pubic hair, precise diagonal lines incised in the hair suggesting strands, zigzag patterns on the fillet around his head, maybe circles and dashes on the chest representing nipples or pectorals.
Tiny details.
Tiny, precise details. It would have had inlaid eyes, probably attachments for something on its head, maybe a helmet or even flowers. And even the detailed inscription running down his thighs contributes to this overall highly crafted, intricate look. It shouts, "I am skillfully made."
So it's not just the overall form, but the visible, detailed embellishment that speaks to its beauty as a crafted object.
Yeah.
And you mentioned formal order cosmos as well. How does that manifest in this little figure?
It adheres to really rigorous symmetry and commensurability, good proportionate measurements. If you look at it from the front, it's bisected almost perfectly symmetrically by a vertical axis marked by incised lines running down the chest and abdomen.
Very balanced.
Very balanced. The symmetry of his head, his long hair falling on his shoulders, the torso itself, it's all reinforced by horizontal axes, like the decorated fillet around his hair and lines possibly indicating the waist or belt. The overall triangular form of his torso even mirrors the triangular shape of his face. In sum, the figure adheres to this rigorous formal order. It appears, you could say, all in good order, eukata kosmos. It serves as an ornament for the figure itself through its structure.
But then there's this fascinating paradox of lifelikeness. You said it seems both obviously artificial and striving to appear alive. How did the artist achieve that effect?
It's a real tension in the object. Despite openly parading its artificiality through those sharp geometric lines and obvious craft, the statuette simultaneously demonstrates this clear drive towards lifelikeness.
Where do we see that?
You see it in the rounded modeling of the body parts, the chest, the back, the powerful arms, the shoulders, the muscular thighs. These are modeled with a softness and roundness that contrasts with the harsh geometric lines elsewhere, making them resemble real bodies more closely.
So a mix of hard lines and soft curves.
Exactly. And then there are these deliberate efforts to invigorate the figure with the powers associated with living beings. Movement, implied by the strong pose, sight through those inlaid eyes that would have stared out, and even speech.
Speech? How does a statue speak?
The inscription itself speaks for the statuette. It's written in the first person, as if the statue itself is talking to Apollo. It says, "Manticlos dedicated me as a tithe to the far shooter of the silver bow. You, Phoebus Apollo, give some pleasing favor in return." It's a crafted voice of bronze.
Wow. So, for you, the listener, imagine encountering this object. It's meticulously crafted, almost geometrically perfect in places, yet it has this rounded form, these staring eyes, and it even speaks to the god through its inscription. It must have seemed almost alive.
That blend of artificiality and lifelikeness was absolutely designed to inspire wonder. Thauma eidestai. Just like Hephaestus's miraculous moving creations. The small size of the statuette, maybe only 20 centimeters high, probably intensified the marvel of its intricate detail and implied life.
And who does this statuette actually represent? Is it meant to be Apollo himself? Or is it an idealized human figure, maybe Menteklos the Dedicator?
That's the ambiguity. It clearly embodies an early Greek ideal of the male physique. Vigorous, strong, athletic, in the prime of youth. Its narrow waist, broad shoulders, strong chest, these mirror heroic descriptions, like Odysseus being admired for his physique. This portrayal of power and beauty would naturally be pleasing to a god like Apollo, the far shooter, by envisaging the god's own power and beauty.
But it could be human.
It could be. Without specific attributes like a lyre or bow, it's difficult to definitively distinguish if it's a godlike human or a human-like god. And Greek epic often made recognizing gods when they appeared among mortals a challenging business. So the ambiguity itself might have been part of the wonder, leaving the viewer, and maybe even the god, guessing.
It's fascinating how this concept of Agalma, the object of delight, wasn't just in their poetry, like Homer, but it also appeared explicitly in their dedicatory inscriptions on objects like this. It became a public declaration on the gift itself.
Indeed. There's an example of a vessel, an Arabalos, belonging to someone named Chalcodemons from around 590 BCE. The inscription on it explicitly calls the vessel itself a perikalis agama, a very beautiful object of delight.
Right there on the pot.
Right there on the pot. It shows the term moving from purely poetic context into common dedicatory use. It's signifying the object's intended pleasing quality for the god. The fact that the inscription is in hexameter verse also betrays its link with epic tradition.
Can you give us a few more quick examples of Agalma in action, showing its different facets?
Sure. In the Odyssey, Penelope puts a brooch on Odysseus's tunic to be an Agalma for him. And this brooch isn't just any pin, it's golden and daedalon, cunningly wrought, with an animated image of a dog catching a fawn, inspiring wonder in all who saw it. It's a source of delight and prestige.
Yeah.
Similarly, Homer describes an ivory cheek piece for horses. It's called an Agalma for the king who owns it, a cosmos ornament for the horse wearing it, and kudos, glory or honor, for the rider. It beautifully highlights the interconnectedness of beauty, Agalma, craftsmanship and ornament, cosmos, and social prestige, kudos, all wrapped up in one object. And perhaps the most telling example, really driving home the reciprocal aspect, is Telesinos' dedication to Athena on the Athenian Acropolis around 490 BCE. His inscription states, "Virgin on the Acropolis, Telesinos of Ketos dedicated this object of delight, Agalma. Taking pleasure in it, may you grant that he dedicate another."
Explicitly asking for something back based on the offering's delightfulness.
Exactly. It explicitly links the votive's beauty, its capacity to inspire pleasure in the goddess, to a continuous, pleasing, reciprocal exchange of Caris. The beauty of this gift is intended to ensure ongoing divine favor and, hopefully, enable him to offer more beautiful gifts in the future. The inscription makes the votive's communicative function in this gift exchange crystal clear.
So beauty clearly had a functional, almost transactional role in this divine gift economy. But were there instances where beauty wasn't enough? Could a beautiful offering still fail to please the god?
Yes, and this is a crucial nuance to remember. Beauty wasn't a magic bullet. The story in the Odyssey of Odysseus' starving men sacrificing the cattle of Hyperion, the sun god, provides a stark example.
They weren't supposed to touch those cattle.
Absolutely forbidden, yet they sacrifice them, and the text emphasizes the cattle are beautiful. Twisted-horned, beautiful, broad-browed cattle described as perfect and precisely the kind that a deity would delight in. The men even promised to build Hyperion a rich temple filled with many delightful things, Agalmata, if they get home safely.
So beautiful offering, promises of more beauty.
But the sacrifice utterly fails. Hyperion is enraged, demands vengeance from Zeus, and the men all perish. It highlights that while beauty could certainly enhance an offering's value and appeal directly to a deity's aesthetic pleasure, it was no guarantee of success without proper ritual correctness and, crucially, respectful intent. Beauty was a powerful component in the equation, but it wasn't the only one. Right relationship mattered more. Outro.
Wow. What an incredible journey we've taken through ancient Greece today, really digging into this concept of beauty. We've explored how it wasn't some detached, abstract idea for them, but a living, breathing force.
Absolutely.
Deeply entwined with their gods, their epic stories, their sacred natural world, their magnificent architecture, and even their heartfelt personal offerings.
From the shimmering godlike armor of Achilles
to the beautiful flowing springs that felt divinely alive.
And those lifelike sculptures that were explicitly designed to inspire wonder.
Beauty was clearly a profound sign of divine presence for them, an act of piety, a way to gain favor, and even, as we saw with the Alcmaeonids, a powerful social and political statement.
It truly was a holistic concept. Their understanding really challenges our modern, often compartmentalized views of aesthetics, doesn't it?
It really does.
For the ancient Greeks, something beautiful was often something ordered, something functional, something awe-inspiring, and something deeply connected to life's purpose and their intricate relationship with the divine. They didn't just passively admire beauty, they expected it to do things to bring delight, to secure favor, to reflect order.
So maybe a final thought for you, our listeners. What can this ancient Greek understanding of beauty as something ordered, purposeful, wondrous, deeply connected to life and the divine? What can it teach us about our own quest for meaning and aesthetic appreciation today?
That's a great question to ponder.
Perhaps by seeing beauty as less about passive admiration from afar, and maybe more about active engagement, inherent purpose, and that deeper resonance. Perhaps we can uncover new dimensions of delight and connection in our own world. Maybe make our own lives, in a way, a little more cosmos. Food for thought. If you want more on this and other deep dives into the world of books, make sure to visit 1337podcast.com.
Thank you. See you next time.
And strength and honor, I am Spartacus.
Thanks for watching. Tap into 1337podcast.com.